And so we're in this boat. It's called the Collins Craft, and some might consider it to be what they call a John boat. Anyways, it's me, my brother, my papa Rollo, and my dad, and so we're out on the water, and it's nighttime because we're going floundering. We're looking for those doormats, quote unquote. And so, we pull up, we go just past Scavans Point, get over to Point No Point, and we're cruising right there in the shallows. Obviously, there's probably 2, maybe 3 feet of water, and my pawpaw's got this Coleman lantern that is legitimately, I think it's probably from the Eisenhower administration. I mean, it is certainly seen some years. Anyways, he got this thing fired up, and Mullet, whenever they see light at nighttime, because it's probably around midnight at this point, whenever they see light, they just get really excited. It's almost like someone turned on the SOTW collection. They get so excited they can't help themselves, and their body spasms, and they just jump out of the water, and usually just smack right, when they land, they're not super graceful. Anyways, me and Trevor are in the back, probably making a lot of noise. Who knows? I mean, we're in elementary school, like early elementary school. And like my dad's poling with the gig, and my pawpaw's got the Coleman lantern, and he swings it over to the right side where Trevor was, and then he swings it over to the left, and this mullet jumps up out of the water. I kid you not. I've told some tall tales on this podcast early on. This is the truest story that I've ever told in my life. This fish jumps out of the water, hits me on the dang side of the head, smacks me across the face essentially, and lands in the boat. And so I'm probably 7 years old. I'm scared out of my mind. I think I started crying. Everyone else is laughing at me. Classic. And yeah, we threw it in the cooler and we ate it. We fried it up later, but it's just crazy how sometimes, there's events that go on in your childhood that you'll never forget, and they leave a certain imprint on your memory, on your psyche, and things like that. So now any chance that I get to consume a mullet or, somehow assert my dominance, I'm sure to do that. So that's just a little anecdote into my childhood, but I think it tells a good story as to who I am today. And I'm sure if we went around the room right now, we could all tell stories that have, similar effects. So, but yeah, I don't know if you ever heard of a story like that, but it was a pretty impactful time in my life.
I mean, I can tell to be able to recall such vivid imagery and be able to translate that to me and the 100,000 listeners that we have now, not only is it a testament to how powerful an memory that was, but it's also a testament to how gifted God has made you to be able to recall in such a way. And I just think that's awesome. And you seem to have, now correct me if I'm wrong, you seem to have a lot of memories from Scavans Point. And I was just thinking they should come out with a shirt that says, I skinned Van at Scavans Point. And maybe the mullet. You could name the mullet Van.
Well, I think that would be an excellent idea if it was called Scavans Point. Unfortunately, it's Scavans. There's no N in it. And it's formerly known as Escribano Point. So if you're looking on a
Oh.
map, it's going to look like Escribano, but
Are
we
we talking
call it
about like
Scavans. So
escribano as in escribar, as in Spanish for writing, or something else?
yeah, I think Escribano probably comes from Escribamos, which,
We write.
of course, all of our Hispanic listeners, I think somebody translates this um, on a weekly basis, but that means, yeah, like you said, we ride. Escribamos. Escribamos, ay, ay, ay. We ride. So I think somewhere along the way, maybe from the Spanish settlers, um,
I think.
somehow the Spanish
I
settlers
think.
somehow have that got translated incorrectly to the folks in
Yeah.
East Milton, but
I think escribamo is escribar is the root word, which is right, as in penmanship, not ride.
oh, well, we are. Listen, we need to do a better job of listening. That's the main point coming out of this story here.
Oh, allow. We should just restart this episode.
Oh no, that's too good. That's too good of a start to cut it out. It's too good, man.
How did they translate escribamo to Scavans? That's the real question.
I honestly have no clue. That's just that's what the folks out in East Milton call it.
Mm,
They don't make the maps. They don't read the maps. They've got
right,
their
right.
own. They've got their own way of living, and
That's
it's
right.
a lot of people would say it's the right way. So,
Their
but
inner
that's neither here
language.
nor there. What's that?
I said it's their inner language. Like the
Yeah,
people of East Milton would know what getting hit by a can of corn might mean, if you know what I'm saying.
I don't know if I know that one.
Oh, you don't remember this live PD episode where the officer walks into East Milton and they're interviewing this woman and she's like, I got hit by a can of corn from the Piggly Wiggly.
I forgot about
Piggle
that.
Wiggles.
Yeah, no, that was one of the greatest. Was that Cops or was that Live PD?
Oh, it
I think it
was
was
one of those two.
I think it was Live PD. Yeah, they pulled up on this lady in East Milton, and her head was freaking cracked open. Apparently, it was dang domestic violence via can of corn. So,
And the camera shot just pans to multiple cans of corn on the ground.
oh man, that's good stuff. Well,
It's been
how was your 7 days?
That's a great question. I was going to ask you the same thing, but I guess I'll go first. My 7 days, pretty marvelous. It's getting more and more marvelous the more time goes on, because why not, That's a big question that I have to ask myself. Why not? Anyway, Monday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. What was our challenge? Figure out a way to stand in the gaps, stand up for people who don't have a voice. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We were off of work at the church, which means it was just a chill day. I went for a little run. I went for a little walk. I played a little pickleball. And then I had upward basketball practice that evening. Now at pickleball, I was kind of juggling between the two. It was like 3:30, let's go play pickleball, but my practice starts at 5:15. Well, a good coach arrives 15 minutes early to greet the children, have a little party time, shoot some hoops before practice to get warm, you know what I'm saying? So I went and played pickleball for an hour-ish. I met, now, let's just call her Sarah. That most certainly was not her name, but I didn't get permission to use her name, so I'll call her Sarah for now. Well, I'm playing pickleball with Sarah, and they have a newborn. Well, Sarah's the grandma. The newborn is at the pickleball court with the mother, father, and then grandfather. So Grant, a college student, and myself are playing Sarah and her daughter. And Sarah and her daughter are good. We're just a little better. It was great competition, and it was a fun game. But I saw the newborn. I said, my podcast partner has a newborn as well. And she's like, what podcast? And I said, the Quite Frankly podcast. And she said, oh, I've seen that before. Is it the blue and yellow gradient one with the black letters on it? I said, that's exactly it. And then we just started talking about the podcast. But it was an all-around great time. On Tuesday, I had life group. And remind me to ask a question after I finish this week, because there was a question asked in life group that I wanted to ask you.
Oh, boy.
See your response. Wednesday, as we talked about last week, Angels, Demons, and the Unseen World. Well, we resumed that study for this week 2, and it was excellent. We talked about the character of angels and demons, just what kind of forms they take, what are their rankings. The Divine Council was also a part of that chat. Now, I will say an encouragement that I found to be from the Word, and it's just a good reminder, is often, and it's been on my mind lately, is often what we see is it's God versus the devil in these portrayals of who God is and who the devil is. And we can easily, or at least I find myself easily thinking that if I'm not checking myself and examining myself. But it's a good reminder, my friends, that it's not God versus the devil. There's no contest. They're not opposites, you know? God is in control of the devil. The devil doesn't act on his own. God is in complete control of what the devil, Lucifer, can do. So I thought that was a good reminder and encouragement for myself. And angels work to minister God's work and minister to God's people. So all around, fantastic study so far. Thursday went on. It was just a normal work day. I went home, partied on. You know what I'm saying? Had a little dinner, I guess you could call it that. And we continued on. Friday morning, I'm getting up, 6-mile walk. I got to get those legs churning for the big day because we spent all day moving Jordan Massey from Gainesville to Largo, Florida. Jordan Massey was my supervisor at my previous job, so we helped him move to his new job, and that was a 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. deal. So we got those legs churning, we got those the hamstrings pumping upward, if you know what I'm saying. The quadriceps also were locked in, and the groin was surprisingly an integral part in that. So it was pretty special. Saturday rolls around. We got upward basketball. Well, we've played all of our teams. We've played all the teams in the league so far, so we're doing another rotation of the teams. So we're playing the Lions back at Adam Langston's team. Well, Adam Langston's team has improved. There's no doubt about that. But it's just another caliber of play, you know. Some people pointed out to us that said, why don't our parents clap for when our kids make the baskets like all the other teams do? And I just said, they expect it, you know. There's a standard here that we hold these kindergartners, these 5 and 6 year olds to. So it's pretty special. Then I went and played tennis with my friend Kevin. Kevin is also, I'm connected to Kevin through Zach Allen, which we're going to have on the podcast next week. It's going to be exciting. And maybe we can talk about how Zach and Kevin know each other. That'll be good, actually. Let's do that. Let's talk about how Zach and Kevin know each other. And then I went and played golf with my friends Jesse and Josiah, who are also your friends, who are also our audience's friends by proxy. I played okay. I was pretty pleased with my last few holes, but the greens just, I couldn't one putt except one hole. So It was pretty good though. It was pretty fun. Met this guy named Howard. Howard was a gym. He's the park ranger. Not the park ranger, he's the ranger on the course.
I was about to say
And
park ranger.
it was so backed up. So our tee time was at 2:52 and we were walking 9 and we had all these foursomes and carts. And we didn't tee off until 3:15 probably. But we were at the tee box at 2:52. And we were just talking to Howard, and Howard's up there. Man's a beast. He's hitting them with, these guys are terrible. They can only hit it 10 yards.
Maybe they should be playing from the Reds.
Yeah. Yeah. So Howard, if you're listening, I invited Howard to join me for church. So maybe I'll see him next Sunday. You never know. But maybe we'll be able to talk about it then. Talk about how much he made fun of me for my swing afterward.
So,
but it was a good week, man.
Good. Do you think? I mean, as the starter, sounds like Howard's the starter here at Turkey Creek. I presume is where you were playing.
Ironwood. This one was Ironwood.
Ironwood. Okay, that makes more sense. Do you fault Howard for the backup? I mean, as the starter, that's kind of your, I imagine you take pride in, hey, we're going to keep a reasonable pace of play. I'm going to get guys off the tee box when they're supposed to tee off. That's my job. That's what I'm going to do. Or was Howard basically, this is beyond repair whenever you're 20 minutes, when you're 20, 25 minutes behind on tee times? What was his attitude towards that?
I don't want to put public courses to shame at all. My answer is it's not going to be Howard's fault. But there is a level of incompetence going on because, quite frankly, there was 2 different groups waiting on carts to return so they could go off the first hole.
Oh.
There were no carts available. So I don't think that's Howard's fault, Howard's just there to get discounted golf later. You know what I'm saying?
That's what it sounds like. So I think the pro shop, there's a little bit of malpractice going on is what it sounds like from a management standpoint.
Or someone's stealing carts, Someone may have broken into the carts and just took 20 of them. But yeah, it's tough. It was tough.
Or the dude working at the cart barn is passed out somewhere.
Yeah.
And they're just piling up, There's a lot of different possibilities of what it
the pace of play was not on pace with whatever a scorecard would say. Because normally those scorecards say you should finish your round in 4 hours or 3.5 hours or however long it takes. I'm assuming, unless they're overbooking themselves, which would be actual incompetence.
Right.
I would say that the caliber of play at Ironwood Golf Course isn't one that can keep up with the amount of people that want to play at Ironwood Golf Course.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's always tough because, you want to keep that like maybe 12-minute per hole pace of play. And when there's so many, if the course is absolutely jam-packed, you hate to be the guy riding around that, telling people, hey, you're the holdup, pick up and move on. But I think you've also got to have some level of self-awareness. Like, if I'm on a par 5 and I'm on my 7th stroke and I'm still not on the green, maybe. And I've done that. I do that all the time.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's time to pick up, watch my friends putt out and go on to the next hole. But
yeah, I'll say this. This is one of the great moments that I wish I had on video because it would be incredible to look back on. But I'm going to use Jesse as a prime example of what you just said. He picked up, he watched his teammates go on, putt out, go to the next hole. But on hole 2, Jesse is swinging the 4-iron. Well, he hits his drive about 70 yards on the ground. So he has about
Piped.
250 yards left or so. So he pulls out his 4-iron and he is swinging away. He's trying to hit a home run here. The thing about Jesse is he doesn't have a glove. All right.
Oh.
So Jesse's got his, and he lifts his front left foot up so he can really get that torque in there, so he can so it can go yard. Well, Jesse takes a practice swing. It's looking great. It looks like it's going to be great. Jesse lines up to the ball. Jesse takes just the biggest, and I mean biggest, wind up and swing through, and all you hear is, and that sound is the club flying forward, making a wind noise about 35 yards, and it's forward, and it probably went 20 feet in the air, and it sticks straight in the ground and lands straight up. And it was one of the most hilarious things I've ever witnessed on the course. Oh, I couldn't contain my breath. When I get really riled up and laughing, my laugh sounds like I am wheezing and I can't breathe. That's what my laugh sounded like. And it was just absolutely remarkable. But here's what I will say about Jesse is from where he's gone, the first time he played was with us at TPC Tampa to now. Oh, I mean, the percentage increase of improvement is more than 400%. So, kid's a legend. And not just on the golf course, he's an amazing person. So I'll leave it at that, but it was a great time.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, to kind of piggyback off what you said there of his improvement, I think he's definitely, I mean, it was comical the first time I ever watched him golf. I'll say that. And that's, maybe a little mean, but he's willing to put in the effort and the time to get better. Because there's a lot of people that will go to Top Golf, something else, try to hit it a couple times and say, this isn't for me. But I think it says a lot about his character and really anybody's character when they say, hey, I'm not awesome at this, but let me work at it. Let me get better. And, he's still going out there. He's still going out and playing with you guys. And it sounds like he's getting better. I mean, the story you just told sounds hilarious. I'm not going to lie. And it's hard to come back from that mentally. But yeah, I mean, Jesse's a great dude. And I feel like also with him, I mean, he wasn't really, I don't think he was raised golfing at all. So for him to have the self-awareness of like, hey, this is when I need to pick up, this is kind of the common courtesies, the etiquette. Because I know me and you, we both had awesome grandfathers who took us out on the golf course and taught us all the little intricacies and unwritten rules and things like that. But, there's a lot of people that didn't have that chance that, they don't know they're not supposed to take 30 minutes on a hole. But it seems like he's doing great from the sound of it.
Yeah. I mean, and from evidence that I'm about to share with you is on the 9th hole, he lines up to drive, hits it 150 yards just to the right of the fairway. It's beautiful. In the air, too. His second shot flies it probably another 120 yards right into the fairway. So, and he finished that hole. I'm a big proponent of 9th hole or 18th hole. No matter how you've played, you got to put that thing in the hole to really get it for next time.
You can't pick up on the last one for sure.
Yeah. And I agree is some of my fondest golf memories and some of my most formative golf memories are with my grandfather. So it's always a fun time. I hope to be that grandfather to my grandchildren one day. But I wanted to ask you that question. The question was, what is the most important spice to you in your life? That's the question of the Tuesday
I don't
Live
know if
group.
this is a trick question. Is this like, 3 little spices in your life, as in like, or are we talking cooking?
We're talking cooking.
Oh man.
But is it a spiritual cooking? Is it a mental cooking? Is it a physical?
Well,
I'm just kidding.
that's,
We're talking.
that's my
We're
luck. I'm
talking
going to say some dang smoked paprika, and you turn
so-
around and say the
something
only
like a
spice you
garlic.
need is the Lord Jesus.
That song of Solomon Spice. You know what I'm saying?
Would you consider salt to be a spice?
Oh, yes, I would. Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, I think it's got to be salt, because salt is, it's the basis for everything. You look at all the best barbecue, it's just salt and pepper. You know what I mean? They're not putting, like I said, paprika, all this other random stuff. So I think it's got to be salt, because, like I said, it's the baseline for everything. It's the baseline for all the other spices. You can put as many exotic spices in a dish as you want, but at the end of the day, if a dude takes a spoon of it, it says, "Hey, pass me the salt." No good, man. No good.
Yeah. That is actually, I said, and I quote, kosher salt. But it makes me think, without the Lord called us to be the salt of the earth. You know what I'm saying? He didn't call us to be the paprika of the earth or of the earth. He actually called us not to be of the earth. He called us to be the salt of the earth, the light of the earth. So I just thought, and light isn't a spice, but salt is. So maybe a light salt.
Just a light salting.
Oh, but I was just curious. But even more, I'm curious about your past 7 days. How have they been? I'm sorry, I'm taking up so much of our time together.
No, I don't want you to apologize. Not once. Not once do I want you to apologize, because,
Okay,
quite frankly,
I'm sorry. I won't do it again.
quite frankly, we have all these other segments that we try to get in, but I think realistically, just talking about our weeks is the best part, for me at least, and I would say probably for you as well. We try to have these other segments to throw a little spice in there, but I think the fans love to hear about our weeks. So
That's right.
Don't ever apologize for that. But I had a good week. It started out on Monday with our Bible study group. Our Monday Bible study group kicked back off, and we are doing a series on family. And I'm sure there's going to be a whole bunch of different familial relationships. Like your relationship with your parents or siblings, or parenting your children and things like that. But the first session was kind of just a sort of a baseline as to, it's kind of the scope with which we look at all of our other relationships, right? So we talked about how the first family was the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so there's a lot of good discussion on that. It's really they asked a lot of questions about the Trinity, and I think it's so hard, because that's one thing from the Bible that I think our brains are like the little shot-sized Solo cups. And I think the knowledge, you know what I mean, of the Trinity and the nuances of it is like the dang Pacific Ocean. So I don't know if we'll ever truly get to the point where we actually understand that. But there were certainly some good conversations that came out of it. The other thing after that, Tuesday and Thursday, I was planning on doing a little exercise with some of my friends in the mornings. Jacob and Todd, we were going to get up and do a little walk run interval in the mornings. And so I feel bad, because for me to get up and work out before work, I have to get up at 4:30, 4:45, and their jobs don't really require that they get up that early. So I feel bad being like, look, if we're going to do this, it's going to have to be early. Um, but that Tuesday, Jacob made it. I think Todd's newborn daughter had a rough night on Monday night and Wednesday night, so he wasn't able to make it. But we just walked on Tuesday morning. We did, I think, around 4 miles. And it was good. Just getting a little cardio, nothing crazy, but had some good conversation along the way. So that was a blessing. And then let's see, the rest of the week was just kind of, your typical work week. Saturday morning, we scheduled Stetson's first haircut, which it wasn't that emotional for me, but it was pretty emotional for Molly because he's 11 months old right now. So for the past 11 months, you see this little baby grow into a little boy, and he's, pulling up on stuff, getting ready to walk, and his hair is just crazy, like sticks straight off his head. It's like, I don't know, probably 4 inches long. It's getting in his eyes and stuff like that. So it's certainly time to cut it. But I think it just, I don't know. I think it just mirrors his personality so well. But yeah, we got it cut, and he just looks like a 5-year-old now that his hair is cut. So it's honestly really sad. But he's still super cute. So, but yeah, they put him in this little fire truck, and they strapped him in, and they gave us some of his hair and took his picture afterwards. So that was pretty fun.
That's cute.
But you could tell whenever she turned on the shears and it was like zzz, next to his head, he was like, so he was a little suspicious at first, but he did a really good job. He was very still the whole time.
Do they get a treat afterward? Maybe like a little gummy worm or something?
I think they give some of the older kids lollipops, but I mean, he's 11 months, so a lollipop doesn't really...
Maybe like a slice of watermelon or something. For
now that would be
on.
That would be a great treat for him. But yeah, unfortunately, all they had was lollipops, and we went through Chick-fil-A after that, and I got him a chicken mini and let him eat it. So
lucky guy.
I know it. And he had some of my coffee too. So he had a good morning. I'll say that.
That's right.
Big brown sugar shake and espresso guy.
That just makes sense,
Well, he's like his daddy in a lot of ways. So he's very particular about some things. And then the last thing, right after we got his haircut, probably an hour and a half after that, Molly made some chicken tortilla soup because it was so cold this weekend. Like this morning, it was 37 when I woke up, which is unheard of. But we had Jacob and Todd and their families came over, and we played some cornhole by our pool. I made some quesadillas, some cheese quesadillas to dip in the chicken tortilla soup. So it was great. There was a lot of kids. I mean, Todd and Kristen, Todd, a.k.a. Chalupa Batman, they've got a newborn daughter. And then Jacob and his wife, Amber, they have 2 kiddos as well. So it was, there's kids running around all over the place. There's bean bags flying everywhere. But it was a great time. We really had a blast. So that was kind of my week in review, I guess. It was a little more full than what we're used to, but it was, with a lot of friends and loved ones. So it was a good time.
That is absolutely awesome. You said a couple things that I wanted to ask you about. One, I think we could do a whole episode on the family and the Bible. I really like that idea of studying family and starting out what are your different families and how family dynamics change throughout the stages of life you're in, and how to be a good family member that reflects the Lord. But that's for another episode, perhaps. Perhaps a subscriber only episode, you know?
True.
What really caught my attention was, talk to me about Chalupa Batman. What all does that entail? Is it a vigilante type? I'm gonna go share some chalupas with my friends, or I'm gonna go share some chalupas with the less fortunate. You know, what are we looking at for this Chalupa Batman?
I really don't know where he got it from. It was his fantasy football team name like 2 years ago. And really, every time I see Todd now, I just think of the Chalupa Batman. So I don't really know what it pertains to. I just imagine, there is a possibly Hispanic version of the Batman. And when they need some help, like the Joker's, doing something crazy, they just flash a chalupa or a Taco Bell sign, and the Chalupa Batman, comes in and saves the day. So that's really all the
That's
info
right.
I've got on it.
Live
And I'm
Moss,
sure there's a
baby.
meme. I'm sure there's a meme behind it that I'm missing completely. But who knows? Maybe we'll have him on the podcast to explain it one day.
I think that would be great. We could have a whole day where we watch kids get haircuts too. We go record at a kids haircut station. That'd be fun too.
So creepy. Just two 20-year-old dudes. I need you to sign this consent form. We're going to be videoing your child while they're getting a haircut.
Do you mind if we also offer them lollipops? Oh, well, Chalupa Batman Fantasy Football. Talk to me about sports you're seeing.
Well, the sports I've been seeing, last night was the Packers. The Packers played the 49ers, and they played them really, really hard. There was two basically easy. I don't want to say easy, but there was two plays where Brock Purdy just throws the ball and essentially hits our safety in the chest with the ball on two different occasions, and they dropped it. And they both probably would have gone back for touchdowns. Obviously, we ended up losing the game by, I don't know, 3 or 4 points. So that would have been really the difference in the game. And it's a shame because, against the Cowboys, it seemed like every time I turned around, they were picking off Dak. Not to,
Well, that's
not to
because
cast
the
any
Cowboys
shame
got
on
paid
you.
off.
Okay. It was in the script.
Yeah. I heard the other day that Jerry Jones, he actually bet on the Packers to win, so he paid the players $1 billion collectively to lose.
Wow. I wonder how much he he put on the Packers.
At
It would
least $1
had to
billion.
have been. Yeah, I was about to say to do some cost analysis there.
Yeah.
It'd have to be a substantial bet. But yeah, it was. I don't know. It was sad because you stay up late, later than you want to. You're rooting for this team. You want them to win so dang bad. And in the end, the dude misses a field goal and they drive down the field and score. So it was pretty pitiful ending for the Packers. But I'm proud of how far they came because honestly, the whole season, it wasn't really what they had hoped it would have been. But I think making it this deep into the playoffs kind of shows the type of team that they were all along, if that makes sense. So that was last night that I watched that. The other thing I wanted to kind of ask you about was if you had seen the Texas basketball coach after they got beat by UCF. And apparently some of the UCF players were doing the horns down in the, the high five line, so to speak.
Oh, I hadn't heard this. But I was talking to my friend Connor, faithful listener of this show,
Big Red
and
Machine.
Big Red Machine, and he said he was talking about this, and the way I understood what he was talking about is they were just doing it after the game, like horns down, just like anybody else. But to
Right.
do it in the handshake line is something else. I'll comment after you say exactly what happened.
Oh, so I'll say this. I don't know if the horns down happened in the handshake line. It was certainly after the game. But the Texas coach during the handshakes was scolding the UCF players as he was going down the line about how they shouldn't be doing the horns down. And I guess the overarching question is, do you think that Texas is a little entitled? Because it seems like every other team, when the Gators lose, teams love to, chomp to the crowd. And when Florida State loses, they love to do the chop to the crowd and everything else, Georgia, they bark at little kids at their games. You know what I mean? So I'm wondering if Texas, if they've got the guts to kind of join this conference when it seems like they just don't really, they're not able to put up with the little horns down. You know what I mean? It's not that hard. So
I think there's two different ways to look at it. One way is that horns down is the opposite of horns down isn't even a thing. Chomping is what the players do. You're a Gator, you chomp, right? So it's doing the chomp. My point being, you look in the stands, people are doing the chomp as a mockery. Well, that wouldn't make sense, So the horns down is a clear horns down. Does this make sense?
Well, I think if you're saying it's a mockery, I mean, after Florida loses, if someone from Florida State goes over to the sideline, which, I mean, everybody does this, after the Gators lose and chomps to the crowd, it's clearly a mockery. They're not cheering for the Gators after the game.
I think you're not in reality. You see, Florida isn't good enough to where it actually matters about the boom roasted. My whole preference or thoughts on this is it doesn't matter. Do whatever you want. Freedom of expression, horns up, horns down. Who cares? But I've never been a fan of do your demeaning people. I'd rather you just cheer for your team. If you're a Gator fan, do the chomp as a Gator fan. The FSU fan, do the war chop. Longhorn fan, do the thing. Santa Fe Saint, do the llama.
Amen. Do the llama. I agree. I'm a big cheer on your team, and when you win, act like you've been there before. So I'm not necessarily a fan of the horns down. I just wanted to get your take to see, if Texas and their associated fans, I just don't want people getting, butt hurt whenever they do get the horns down, because I don't know if I would do it. I probably would, to be honest. I'd probably do it just because it's fun, but I just don't know if they're ready emotionally.
But I think you're proving a point is that people are obsessed with Texas no matter who you are. People just like doing it, and they have no reason to. Like, why? They don't actually not like Texas. They're just doing it because it's funny.
100%. Because the uproar after it was first created from Texas fans was, like nothing the sports world has ever seen before. And then in 2019, they come out and say, hey, it's actually going to be a penalty. You can mock any other team in the NCAA you want.
That's not
but if
true.
you do horns down, that's going to be 15.
That's not true.
That's going to be 15 yards if you do the horns down. So,
oh man, you SEC homers. I think if they do it, if they were to do it, so like you said, if they did it in the handshake line, I think there's just no room for that. I don't care who you are, Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, whoever you're mocking, be a gentleman, be a ladylike gentlewoman, you know? Grow grow up. You're 25 years old. You can't look a man in the eye and say, good game. You got to do horns down or chomp chomp or whatever, X. I don't know. It's kind of childish. I get if you're in high school. You have yet to fully develop, etc. But, yeah. If it was in the... Instead of shaking the hands, if they just put a horns down in their own face, that's just classless in my opinion.
Yeah, that'd be pretty low. That'd be pretty low. I agree with you there.
But those are my thoughts.
Well, I appreciate you sharing them, and I'm excited to see, once Texas goes into the SEC and, in 2 or 3 years, whenever the Big Ten and the SEC secede from the NCAA, it'll be interesting to see, what's a penalty and what isn't a penalty, and,
Yeah.
kind of how that changes things. So, but anyways.
I don't think Texas is good enough at basketball to where it matters. It's not like it's going to hurt you. It's not like it should hurt their pride for horns down to be in their face if they have lost 6 games already. You know what I'm saying? Your pride's already shot. So it's just to have some class on the other side. But we're on a basketball trend. Have you heard about the Detroit Pistons? They broke their 30 or 28 game losing streak. I think it's the longest losing streak in NBA history.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that doesn't change the fact that they're on pace to be the worst record of any NBA franchise ever. They're 4-36 right now. And one of these fans, they have an idea so they don't break out. So they don't get this losing record. So they can fix their season, basically. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to read it because I thought it was funny. It says, we are 4-36 and on pace to become the worst team in NBA history. At this point, think about it. If the worst player on our team, I would say James Wiseman, just started punching and beating people up, but that's beating the best players up on the other teams, let's just say for a couple seconds, then what's the worst that can happen? Wiseman gets tossed. He's the worst player on the team, so it wouldn't really matter, and their best player gets hurt. Just imagine Wiseman going completely crazy on Luka before the teammates and referees get involved. It would be at least 3 whole seconds, which is a lot of time to break someone's leg or arm if they're trying really hard. Just something to think about as we approach the second half of the season. Oh, man. Just brilliant. Genius idea. If you can break the arms and legs of the best players, you're probably going to have a chance to win. At least a better chance to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly a strategy and a tactic to where, and this could be in any sport. It could be hockey or basketball or anything else. But I believe the term is hatchet man. We have one guy on our roster that's really bad at basketball. He's going to foul out in the first 5 minutes of the game, but he's going to do some, he's going to rough some people up. And like I said, they have that in hockey and other sports as well. But I think, look, if you're this far, I mean, they're rubbish. Let's be frank. Straight basura. And they need a hatchet man in the worst kind of way. So look, I would certainly tune in to NBA basketball if that was the case. Really, I mean, John Morant's not playing for the Grizzlies right now because his season is done with a shoulder injury. I haven't watched any NBA basketball this year. I don't think at all. Maybe I watched 1 or 2 Grizzlies games, but I don't really plan on watching any more either. But if they started implementing this, you better believe I'd had that boy recorded and I'd be watching every single game.
It's a pretty special strategy, And how funny is it that John Morant, what did he play? 10 games?
Oh, it's that.
suspended for 25 games and then goes out and tears his labrum. Come on, Ja.
Pitiful.
We got to be better than that. But I just thought it was funny, and I agree with you. It would make viewership increase. I'll say that. And Detroit to actually be aired on national television. That's the first step. Because no one is gonna want to air a 4-36 team. They're just not gonna bring in the big bucks.
It's true. But if you can guarantee a fight within the first 10 minutes of the game.
That's right. Maybe if they put it on Peacock, they'll get some viewers.
Dude comes out wearing like MMA gloves.
Yes.
Gotta protect my knuckles.
Well, speaking of Peacock and things that you have to subscribe to watch, this past week, I wish we had a celebration sound. Maybe I'll input one. Celebration sound right here. We had our first ever subscriber only content subscriber on Spotify. And I was playing golf yesterday, and I was talking, and Jesse was asking me how my trip to Texas was, and I told him I played golf, but I don't remember the place. And Josiah says, "Oh, it was Whitestone Golf Club, wasn't it?" And I said, "How do you know that?" And he said, "I subscribe to your channel." And I said, "Oh my goodness, you're the subscriber." Because we can't see who subscribes. Though we do want to write personal letters and send you photographs as a thank you. So that's a sidebar. Anyway, Josiah Poole, this is a special shout out for being our first ever subscriber only content subscriber. I was talking to Josiah, and he said that it's been one of the greatest things of 2024 for him, that this podcast and that subscriber only. And he also said $3 a month is perhaps the greatest investment he could possibly make on anything. So think about that as you're pondering and pontificating whether or not you should subscribe to our subscriber only content. And you can do that on flobo.com, FLEAUBO.com. But I just wanted to thank you, Josiah Poole, for one, who you are and who the Lord has made you to be, and two, for subscribing to our channel in order to effectively administer deep and generous love.
Yeah, whenever you text me, I think I was at work, and you text me a screenshot and it says 1 subscriber. And I start screaming, doing cartwheels. And everyone else, in my meeting was like, you can't do that. So I was reprimanded for that, but I was so excited. And then a few days later, you come to me and say, Josiah, and his middle name is Wilson, Josiah Poole is the subscriber. And so it just warmed my heart. It warmed my soul. And it warmed a lot of other things. And honestly, it's just so exciting. And I'm getting a little teary-eyed just thinking about it. But we've been through a lot. We've come a long way. And I'll say this, I already let the cat out of the bag that his middle name is Wilson. If we get 15 subscriber only content subscribers in the next week, I'll release some more personal and deeply intimate details about him. So if you want to hear that, we'll put it on the podcast in the subscriber only. But yeah, I was just so excited to hear that. So excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's step number 4 into our master plan. Because ultimately we want to like we say, we love you deeply and generously, and we want to do that as intentionally as possible, and that's our goal. But I just wanted to hang out here for just a second because part of the benefit of subscriber only content is you get to actually request content you would like to see and hear. So that's another way to participate. You're not just paying to listen to us, you're also paying to get a say, a vote, if you will. And that's just one way that we can love you deeply and generously. So just think about that. Continue to ponder and pray, and just see what the Lord has you to do. And we trust what he has you to do is going to be ultimately to glorify him, however that may turn out to be. Anyway, moving it forward, what have you been seeing in the reality television world? We have a couple reunions going on. What are your thoughts?
We do. We have Southern Charm. I mean, really, the only big shows I've been watching are Southern Charm, Housewives of Beverly Hills, and a little bit of Salt Lake City in between. But I feel like the big one is Southern Charm because that was I think there was two parts to it. And so this past week was kind of the final part. And it was, I mean, you're talking about spice earlier. There was certainly some spice to go around in this last
A little
episode.
hot Hungarian paprika, if you will.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. What was, man, I feel like there's just so much to unpack with it. What would you say is your most memorable part from that reunion there?
Reunion Part 2, I really enjoyed the dialogue between JT and Austin. It's just a continuation of that bar scene. And JT is like, no, I wasn't trying to get him to punch me. Why would I try to get him to punch me? And then Andy Cohen's like, are you kidding me? You have to be joking. He's like, no, I'm not joking. Why would I try to get him to punch me? It just... I'll say this: JT is consistent. He's consistent. Whether that's a good consistent or bad consistent, that's for the viewer to judge. But I'm just going to leave it at he's consistent. So I really enjoyed that. Again, I really enjoy Craig. He's a fun guy. I like him. Other than that, not much memorable for me, if I'm being honest. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, I think the whole point of the reunions is so that, I mean, obviously there's drama at the reunions. That's the point of the whole show. But Andy really does, if something's just completely out of line and ridiculous, Andy's not afraid to call him out. And I think, like you said, when JT was on the bar stool, half an inch from Austin's face, just yelling at him, like you're begging for the other person to do something to you. You know what I mean? That way you can. And my thinking is he's going to try to entice Austin into harming him physically, and then Austin's going to look like the bad guy. JT's going to look like a knight in shining armor. Oh, woe is me! I got punched. I didn't provoke him or anything like that. And so it was definitely nice to see that Andy, like you said, was like, "There's no way you weren't trying to do that. You were right in his face." But yeah, that was really nice to see. I think also the accusations about Olivia and T-Rav were kind of out of nowhere and honestly pretty disgusting. We won't go too deep into it. But old T-Rav, he's just so old. You know what I mean? And
they don't call him old T-Rav for nothing.
They don't call him old T-Rav for nothing. And whenever she was like, yeah, you and Thomas, and Andy was like, Thomas Ravenel? And all the other guys looked at each other and their eyes were like, T-Rav, are you serious? So that was sad to hear, but also pretty disgusting at the same time.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly, it was despicable. I'm trying to think.
We
of
don't
what
need to
else.
hear. We don't need to hear the talent of imagery that God has given you on that one.
No, I won't go any further. But yeah, like you said, I think Craig has been MVP this season. Last season, he was a little annoying because it seemed like his drinking was out of control. But this season, it seems like he's really made a point to better himself in that way. And I think there's a stark difference whenever you look at how he reacts to situations, the wisdom he can impart to his friends, because, most of the other guys don't seem to have that. I don't know if introspective is the word, but they don't seem to really look at themselves too much and evaluate what their actions are. So that was certainly a pleasure to see. Really, all season was how well Craig handled everything.
Yeah, that's a good word. And who knows? Shep's trying to back off his drinking. What is next season going to have in store? I don't know.
Just beer. That's all. He's not quitting, but it's just beer. So
That's right.
It's a
good
step.
Start. Well, song of the week. What is the song that has been speaking to you this week? And as a reminder, our listeners can always find this on our website, flobo.com, SOTW collection.
Of course. And I think that should be in the show notes. I'll get with Rodrigo and make sure it's in there. But my song of the week is "The Gator Boys" by Midland. It's just a fun song, man. You listen to it. I say this a lot, honestly, about a lot of my songs, but you listen to it with the windows down, you know what I mean? Just riding around. And it's so fun, It's just guys being dudes, just having a good time. So you'll have to go give it a listen to kind of understand what I'm talking about. But it's pretty catchy. And also the cover art for it is, I'm not a big tattoo guy. I don't currently have any. But if I was going to get one, the cover art for that single is definitely what I would go with. So if you're listening to the song, make sure you look down at your phone and say, oh, I might get that tattoo as well.
Yeah. Where would you place this tattoo? That's the real question.
I've thought about it, and it's tough because, you don't want to do something like your calf, something that a lot of people is going to see, but you don't want to put it in a place that's so inconspicuous to where it's naughty, I guess. So maybe just like maybe a rib or like upper thigh. I think upper thigh is a great spot for a tattoo.
Ribs
but once
hurt
again,
the most.
I've heard that. So I think top three places, number one would probably be upper thigh. Number two would be ribs. And number three would probably be, I'd probably shave my head and see if I could get it on my skull, actually.
That would be great for when you're older.
Oh, no doubt. When I go bald, I'm like, oh, I forgot about this.
Oh, that's funny. Well, my song is called Whole Thing by Anna Golden. It's the live version. And it's talking about giving the Lord the whole thing. It's not a part-time gig, your life with the Lord. It's sacrificing everything for his glory. And ultimately, it's a picture of the gospel when we do that, is the Lord sacrificed everything, his son, for us. Why would we not sacrifice ourselves in order to glorify him just out of mere gratitude for what he's done for us? And you can see that picture all the way back to the Garden of Eden where creation begins. So I thought it was a beautiful picture in this song that's written. You and Anna Golden have this gift of imagery, I reckon, a similar gift of imagery. But I would recommend listening. I wouldn't get the cover art tattooed on my body because it's a picture of her around the church.
You can't beat
But-
that, man.
But I would put this song in my ears, if you will.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, do you have any final words for us?
I'll say this. We're about to head off to a subscriber-only content episode and release that this week for our subscriber. And if you buy in as you're listening to this, you might get a chance to listen to it this week. But as of now, Josiah Wilson Poole will be listening to it, and we are grateful for that. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely a lot more. It's going to be more casual than our typical episodes, because I think for this one we could probably structure it as if we're having a conversation with Josiah. I mean, he's the only one that's going to hear it currently, so that's probably how we'll have to format it. It's just like a conversation between three guys. And, whenever it's Josiah's turn, we'll just have a little moment of silence for him. Make it a little interactive for him.
And we'll have to say, yeah, that's a good thought. I haven't thought of that before.
Dang.
So, I was going to say something. Oh, rats. It was going to be funny, too. It was going to be funny. Yes. This isn't what I was going to say, but I remember one thing. On social media, we're going to post a link to join our Strava group where we can all collaborate and have fun together. It's like social media for fitness. So we do that because I just think it's a great time together. You get to not collaborate. You get to see one another, encourage each other, build one another up. And it's exciting stuff. But for now, we love you deeply. Sorry, I got a little emotional. This is a sad ending because it's 7 more days until we see you. But we love you deeply, and we love you generously, and we're gonna see you in 7 days.